Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Hunt, Lift, Eat podcast, brought to you by Hunt, Lift, Eat Official. I'm Carter, and I'm back again with the man, the myth, the legend, the one and only Luke Cox. What's up, dude?
Just living the dream, man. Appreciate the intro.
Are you living the dream?
I don't know. I'm tired. It's good, though. I volunteered for this. No, I'm lucky, man. It's fun. I'm building all this shit, but it definitely gets exhausting some days. Today's one of those days, but I'm stoked for our guest. Fired me back up. We got two badass individuals that I had the fortune to meet a couple months back and zip around on some four-wheelers together. So why don't you introduce your guest there, Carter?
Yeah, we got a couple other probably tired entrepreneurs as well. We got Jason Smith and Mark Strickland from Southern Rut Power Sports here in the home region of North Georgia. So, fellas, welcome to the podcast.
Appreciate it, man. Be here.
Excited, man. Jason and Mark, would y'all know anything about being tired entrepreneurs?
Oh, yeah.
Sure, we could name a time or two.
Yeah, chasing a 2-year-old around constantly, and Jason's got a newborn, so definitely know the meaning of tired.
All while trying to make it work and pay employees and track inventory and make sure your books are straight. And yeah, Luke knows something about that too.
I dabble.
Heck yeah. Well, we're stoked to have you guys on. For context for listeners, Jason and Mark own the Power Sports company up in Cole and Casey and Spencer and all our other North Georgia friends. College town of Dahlonega, Georgia. They're in the foothills of Appalachia there. And we were really fortunate to run into you guys. Really coincidentally, Jason.
Yeah.
Cole and I met you out at a pretty unlikely farm in the middle of nowhere where coincidentally Luke and I first hunted together, which is kind of crazy.
Wow. Yeah.
The first time Luke and I ever met, we went hunting on that farm at our good friend Ed Gilchrist's place up in Dahlonega.
That's right.
And I think Cole and I were up there checking cameras or something. Oh, I forget what we were doing. Checking cameras, maybe getting ready for deer season, and you were working on Ed's four-wheeler out there.
Yeah. Ed's become a really good
pacifier.
The pacifier.
He likes to call it. Yeah, he likes to call it the pacifier.
That's right.
All around all his grandkids on.
That's right.
It shuts them up.
Yeah. Long-time listeners will know. This is kind of full circle here. One of our earliest podcast episodes was called Sixth Generation Mountain Trash. And that was about Ed's neighbors who would steal my deer stands and trail cameras and all that sort of stuff. So we're really bringing it full circle.
Listen to that one.
Yeah, really bringing it full circle, man. And super fortunate to run into you out there, Jason. And we kind of hit it off right away, man. So thrilled to know you and to have met you out there and started this relationship and friendship with you and Mark.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It was one of those days where I didn't want to go out and talk with Ed because I was tired. And Ed is one of those. Ed is one of those guys, man. He'll just talk and you just got to listen. He's full of knowledge. Sometimes I don't know if he's full of shit, but he's that's Ed for you. Super great guy, and when he wants something done, he wants it done quickly and he wants it done right. And I think that's why he came to us, and he's come back many times with his machines. So I think he's a happy camper now.
Yeah, I knew right away.
We won him over.
Yeah, for sure. I knew right away I was going to like you guys because you saw Cole and I out there wearing our HLE hats, and you were like, "You guys like hats?" I was like, "Brother, you have no idea. I work for an apparel company, like big hat guy." And you're like, "1 sec," and you ran to the truck and brought us out some hats and some stickers. I was like, "That's a really nice gesture, man. That was cool." And then we both politely listened to Ed talk about the politics of the world for like 3 hours. And then before excusing ourselves, I was like,
Ed, I got to get back to work, man.
Yeah, dude.
Got to bill
But
him for
no.
that time too. The bullshitting time.
Yeah,
Yep.
we should.
Yeah.
We should.
He'll pay it if he doesn't know about it.
No kidding, man. So why don't you guys roll it back? Why don't you, from y'all's mouths, why don't you guys tell us what you do and a little bit about y'all's company?
Mm-hmm. Jason, I'll
Well,
let you take the lead on that one.
yeah. So back in, let's see here. Well, I'll go way back. So back when Mark and I grew up, Mark and I met when we were about 5 years old, and around first grade, kindergarten, or somewhere around there. And then the relationship started from there. Both of our parents bought us dirt bikes, and from there, that's where the addiction started. And for the longest time, Mark and I said we don't need alcohol or drugs to get high because this is our love, this is our passion, and every day, I guarantee it was brought up to where it was. Let's start a motorcycle company. Let's go race. Let's go sponsor these guys. Let's do this, that, and the other. And it was all this crazy idea. And then I decided. I got into ocean rescue, fire rescue, and I decided to get away from Tifton, Georgia, which is where Mark and I are from. And so I left Tifton, come up here to University of North Georgia. And I say it's to get away from Tifton, but really I was just chasing some tail from an ex-girlfriend that was moving up here. And so needless to say, we broke up, and I just loved it so much that I decided to not move back. And every year I told Mark, hey, I love it up here, man. It's beautiful. It's quiet. It's cleaner. I just love it. And
Yeah,
so we both, yeah, probably. I mean, it was probably once a week I told him that, but I'd come up with these crazy schemes on how to get him up here. And, Mark's my boy. We've been together forever. And it's just, and we both kind of went our separate paths. He stayed down in South Georgia. I stayed up here. We both went to college. And then I started working. We both did a kind of similar job with insurance. That sucked. And then I got out of that, moved into an auto parts company, and lived a really successful career with a company called Auto Plus Auto Parts. So I went from store manager, ran a store beyond the Golden Boys numbers, and then I got out of that and got promoted to a commercial accounts manager, which is basically a sales rep. And then I took over the worst territory in the nation. Led all four of my stores. I'm sorry, 3 out of my 4 stores to success. One that hadn't even made a positive number in 7 years. And the day that they shut that store down, they were positive $10. And so I took that and then moved over to the city of Atlanta as a sales rep, and then gained all sorts of multi-million-dollar accounts. And then I decided to chase what I thought was a better opportunity. And all while in here, I'm buying and selling four-wheelers. It's a passion. And it started all with Auto Plus, and I'll just use it to, buy a machine, fix it just a little bit, turn around, make a profit. It wasn't anything serious. It was more of a hobby. And so I took this job down in Decatur, Georgia. And I hope this guy watches this podcast one day. I really do. And he promised me a lot of money, and right at 6 figures, a little bit more than that. And then, needless to say, he paid me less than half of that, and took all of my contacts that I had with Auto Plus Auto Parts, as I was their number one in the company whenever I left. And so he took all my contacts and just used every bit of it. And so after about 4 months of working there, I said, hey, Pat, I need to make more money. And there's this bonus structure, but I can't hit it because I'm running your shop and your sales at the same time. I said, so I can't make sales if I'm running your shop, and vice versa. And he said, well, come up with a plan. Let me know what you think, and then we'll do it. I said, or we'll talk about it. And I said, all right, that's fine. So I sent him a plan. So this was, I think it was like it was like October 30th, somewhere around in there of 2019. And I left. It was Friday night. I sent him the plan that night. Me and my wife, we discussed it just to make, $1,000 more a month is all I needed, and then so that way I could get to that promised land. And because this guy, man, he had 600 acres in Conyers. He drove a Porsche Panamera Turbo as his everyday. His girlfriend had a Cadillac CTSV. He had 5 franchises. Like, the guy had it. And then actually I figured out whenever I left, he bought a yacht. So there's that. But I sent him this bonus program, and then the next day we had the hurricane that was coming through. It hit North Georgia, and we had all sorts of trees down and everything. So I was already working Monday through Friday, leaving the house at 5:30, not getting home until about 8:30 at night, and working Monday through Friday doing that. And then he wanted me to start working Saturdays on top of that with no additional pay. And so I went ahead and I was like, well, I can't make it in. We have all these trees down. I'm helping the neighborhood. He said, that's fine. The shop doesn't have power. We'll see you Monday. So needless to say, Sunday rolls around and I see his email. And in the email, it says, absolutely not. I do not accept this plan. We'll talk about it Monday. Well, it made me so mad that I did so much for him and was getting so little in return. And I never talked with this guy either, like he said he was going to. And because I wanted to know what he knew. Well, so he sent me that email back, and then I called out Monday, and he said, that's fine. He said, take your time. He's like, get to feeling better. And he said, come back in with that smile that we used to always love seeing, because every day I'd walk in with a new joke or something. And my nephew, he was passing away of cancer at the time, so it was really getting me down, and I was having no support on that end of things. And so that Tuesday morning, that Tuesday morning at about 2 a.m., I couldn't sleep. I was just all over the place and just in my brain. And I just rolled over to my wife, tapped her on the shoulder, and I'm looking at her now. And I tapped her on the shoulder and I said, hey, babe, I said, I'm going to start my own business. She was like, dude, what? And I said, yeah, I'm going to start my own business. She was like, why? And I said, I could sell four-wheelers, make the same amount of money that I'm making now. And at the time, we were on a single income. She was going for her doctor of physical therapy. And so it was just me bringing in the money. And so with that huge pay cut that I took from Auto Plus to this company, it really hurt. And I had a brand new truck sitting in the driveway that I was getting per diem for from the other company, and I just couldn't afford it. And luckily, and she was asleep pretty much. I think that's the only why she agreed to it. And so I went into work that Tuesday morning down in Decatur, and I said, hey, Pat, I said, I found what's going to make me happy. He said, well, what's that, Jason? And I said, I'm going to start my own business. And he said, well, congratulations. When are you going to do that? I said, either today or in 2 weeks. And he said, well, there's no sense in waiting around. And so I told one person bye out of that shop. Everyone else there was just so full of hatred and so full of just nonsense. And I told one guy bye. He was from Africa, this big old dude. And I told him bye, and he gave me like one of the tightest hugs, and he said, good luck, man. And so I left out of there in my 95 Nissan D21 hard body truck, and because that was my gas saver. And I rode back home and started buying four-wheelers. And so I started that November 3rd of 2019. And, it got to where I was starting to purchase, these really, really nice units. I worked my way up from these piece of crap. My first unit that I ever purchased was a 2000 model Articat 250. Beat to hell and back. And I turned around and sold it, made like $500 off of it. And then I was addicted. And so I started buying these Player Sportsmans and these really nice machines. Picked up Mountain Motorsports as a wholesale buyer. They were taking my machines off. And that about the first 3 or 4, they were putting them in the shop, checking them over. And then after that, man, they were just taking them off the trailer and putting them straight onto the showroom floor. And that was the standard that I set for the company. I said, whenever we do these things, I want to do it right. I want to do it right the first time. I want it to be clean. I want it to be nice. And so all of these, all these standards that I put in place, back whenever I started out of my garage is where, they're out at now for our business, especially for machines that we sell. we double check everything. And for machines that are worked on, if they spend, if they're a good spending customer, that machine leaves out of their spot list, and it looks really good. And that's standard. We want our customers to be happy, and we don't have to wash them. I mean, they're going to go right back in the mud anyways. But it leaves a just a good thought, and for this customer, and saying, "Hey, man, they're taking care of me." And Mark was doing the same thing down in Tifton out of his garage, and I'll let him explain some more about that in just a second. But I called him up one day and I said, "Mark," I said, "I can't handle this anymore, man." I said, "I'm doing all this by myself. I'm driving, like 18, 20 hours in a day." I said, "But the biggest thing that's getting me, I don't mind driving." I was like, "But I can't work on all this stuff. It's all these customers that I have are bringing their machines back to me." And I got so busy working out of my, I got a 2-car garage, but I was working out of one bay of it, and just got so busy. And I think at one point, I probably had 14 ATVs sitting in my yard looking like damn trailer trash out here. My neighbors, luckily I get along with them. They're gun shooting hillbillies and just like I am, but, and it cascaded into that. And I finally talked Mark into it, and it's been great. And I'll let Mark explain his side of things too.
Yeah. My side is a lot less glamorous and exciting as Jason's, but we'll crack on a little bit. I've heard this story out of Jason. I don't know how many times now, and it's funny how he can remember so much about that story, but he probably couldn't even tell you what he did this morning or anything. So
not at all.
Had to crack
it was that traumatic. That traumatic in life.
That's probably what it is. No, so he's just passionate about his story and how he got to the point where he's at now. So, but yeah, so we grew up best friends. He's already touched on pretty much all that. We were riding dirt bikes every chance we could get. And, we definitely did go on different paths there for a little while, especially right out of high school whenever he came up here, and I was down South Georgia. Ended up finishing up a business degree from Valdosta State University. So I kind of took the safe route. I just knew that I wanted to complete that before I really did anything else. And as I was working my way through my degree, I was working in different sales jobs. I was at Fastenal Company for about 3 years whenever I graduated with my business degree. And I took a full-time position right out of the gate with them down in Valdosta, Georgia. And was kind of working my way through the ranks there. Left there. I was over if you know the Jacuzzi brand. They make the tubs, hot tubs, and then the household tubs and everything. I had an on site there, so I was pretty much managing over that. And just got a wild hair. I don't really know why, but it probably had a conversation with one of my managers or something, just didn't go well. And I kind of started dabbling around on Indeed and just looking at different jobs. Ended up coming across a job with a State Farm agency in Adel, Georgia. And that was where I was living at the time. We bought a house there, and talked with the agency owner. Everything sounded great. Signed, he kind of sent me over a proposal. And it wasn't really something I was taking serious at first, but, it was a little closer to home, I guess, is the only thing I can think of that really made sense at the time to change the jobs. But, and then I was kind of thinking on down the road, maybe I could become an agency owner. And he had a super nice Denali and big boat and, nice house and all that too. So seemed like he was doing pretty well for himself. So I was like, well, maybe I can make an insurance. And Jason already touched on, we wanted an insurance for a little while, pretty much door-to-door sales. And so I knew I didn't want to go back to that. This was out of an agency. It was supposed to be a good bit more money, like as far as commission-based anyway. Had a base salary, but so I guess it kind of made sense at the time, even though I loved it at Fastenal. But took that job and pretty much sat at a desk for a full year. and was hating it. And, I was talking to the agency owner every chance they got about possibly taking it or like training to become an agent um, over my own place. And he was just, it didn't seem like he wanted to help me out in that area. So, and then this whole time, Jason and I are talking back and forth, and we're kind of going in halves on four wheelers, and I'm doing it down here or down to South Georgia, and he was doing it up here in North Georgia, and um, and correction, Jason, our first ever one. I don't think you remember this one because you never touched it, but we went in halves on a 2004 Arctic Cat 400. So
Gotcha. Yeah, I
yeah,
remember now.
but yeah, so that was
I'm wrong.
I don't remember when that was, maybe 2018, 2019. That's when we really started getting serious about the hobby that Jason had mentioned, just buying and flipping four wheelers. And this whole time we were talking about, like, man, how can we make this work? And we know we want to do this, as a business, but it was just logistics and everything that were kind of in the way. And I wasn't ready to leave South Georgia, and Jason definitely wasn't leaving North Georgia. So we just kind of tried to make it on our own, working jobs, and then Jason took off on his own, and so I was like, well, dang, he took that step. So, yeah, I think you did that for what, about a year or two, buddy, before it
Yeah,
finally
2
came
years.
on. Yeah, 2
You
years.
know,
And
yeah,
whenever he called me up that one day and was like, man, I got so much going on, and I got everybody bringing their units back to me to work on, and I was like, well, I guess it sounds like a great time to make a decision. And I knew I wasn't going to stay with State Farm much longer unless something changed there. So, um, just thought long and hard about it, prayed about it. Man, I think after that last conversation we had, whenever Jason was like, well, I'm about to probably try to find me a shop. And I think it may have been a day or two later. And we got back on the phone. And I was like, all right, buddy, well, you got me in 2 weeks. So,
hold on. There's a correction to this story right here.
no, no.
No. There's a correction to this this
All right,
side of
let's
the
hear it.
thing. And so this is what I heard. So Mark told me that he started thinking about it. He said, you know what, find me a house. Find me a house up there. I'll move. I said, okay. I was thinking like 6 months, whatever. Well, it come down to it, and I said, yeah, I'm trying to find a shop. And he said, okay. He said, how long do you need? I said, well, give me, or I'm sorry. He said, I'm thinking about quitting my job. How long do you think you need? And I said, I need, give me 8-10 weeks, to find a shop. And he said, okay, I got this. Well, so I'm immediately starting to find a shop. And he called me later that afternoon. He says, hey, man, I talked with my boss. He said, my last day is this Friday. And I was like, oh, shit. And so he gave me literally 5 days to find a shop. And man, that's a crazy part of the story too, is because, I immediately started. I quit selling four wheelers. I just had what I had. And I was like, I'm not going to go buy anymore. I'm putting everything I've got into this business and to find a shop. And so I was like, well, I need to go. Well, I sat down, I looked on like realty.com and, all these other places, and you can't find anything online. And so I was like, well, man, I was a sales rep for the longest time. Let's go back to the mechanics. Let's see what they know. And so I went around to every single mechanic shop in about near Gainesville, into Dahlonega. And I just started talking with these guys and asking them, hey, do you know of a shop that's open? Hey, do you know of a barn? I mean, anything that just has bigger space. And I searched and searched and searched. And I finally went and talked to this customer, or I'm sorry, this mechanic. Their name is Danny's in Dahlonega. And now Danny's actually a pretty good buddy of ours now, after talking with him and whatnot. But he didn't talk to me. He was too busy to talk to me. And one of his technicians told his front office lady that the guy down Crown Mountain was trying to get rid of his business. And I passed by that shop. I didn't want to go in there because I had heard some of the stories and it was just disgusting. And I knew who ran it. And I didn't want any part of it. And so I was like, all right, cool. Well, I'm going to stop in there. So I made the decision to head that way. Well, as I headed that way, I got a phone call, and I pulled into like Crown Mountain Realty, and I got a phone call from a friend of mine named Jeff Caudill. And Jeff had recently been promoted through Auto Plus Auto Parts. Now, remember, I'm gone from the company for about 2 years now, probably a year and a half, 2 years. And I get a phone call from him, and he says, "Hey, man, he got promoted to some type of director, and like a VP or some sorts." And he said, "Man, I'm looking for an area director for the North Georgia area. Are you interested?" He's like, "It's six figures." He's like, you get all of your per diem, you get everything paid for it as usual. You have your territory, and it's a successful territory. It's already maintained. You don't have to really do anything. Just keep it going there. And but the kicker was, he's like, you have to travel 2 out of the 4 weeks in the month. And I said, man, I just don't know if I can do that. And I said, let me call you back, Jeff. I said, I got one more shop to go and talk to. I said, let me call you back. He says, all right, man. He says, I'll be hearing from you. I said, yeah, I bet. And so I sat there in their parking lot, and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. And I said, Lord, what do I do? This is the hardest position that I've ever been in, at the time. And so what do I do? I said, I'm a best friend of, years coming to me, chasing this dream. And then I get this opportunity. And do I want to chase my dream with him and run a business, or do I want to go and work for another corporate asshole? And I said, well, let me go see what's going down at this shop. And so I went in, I talked to a guy named Junior. He was a Cuban guy. Nice guy. He just was a Cuban, just guy doing his own thing. And so basically he said, yeah, I'm ready to get rid of this business. And he said, here's the number. If you want to buy the business, come and get it. And so before, he wanted, it was like $75,000 for the business in total. And I was like, no, I'm not buying your business. We're creating our own. And because the business model that he had, and little did I know, was actually like a drug running business out of it. And
that's the North Georgia.
Yeah. I wanted nothing to do with that. And so I called Mark and I said, hey, give me a day or two, Junior, and I'll figure it out. So I called Mark and I said, how do we figure this out? I said,
and at the time, I'm just painting my house, getting ready to move. So, yeah, pressure's on.
Yeah. And so I'm trying to figure this out. He just quit his job, and I'm like, how do we do this? So we got a loan from a good friend of ours, and our good friend of mine, my mentor actually, and I sold him this dream of opening up Southern Rut Power Sports, and he went for it. Got us the money. We bought out Junior, and then the race was to get it opened. And Junior said, give me 1 month, I'll be out. Well, it took him 2.5 months, and that was 2.5 months. And so our goal was to have the shop ready in a month, to go ahead and turn around, start working on machines. Went ahead and got all the licenses ready. Went ahead and got, just everything, just ready to go.
The office and we had to continuously, we completely remodeled.
Yeah. So when we got in there, man, it looked like a homeless man had been living in the shop. It was dirty. It was grimy. The floors were rotten. There was holes in the walls. There was dirt, grease, and grime everywhere. And Mark and I spent right at probably 2 months, renovating the shop, cleaning the outside, removing the cars that he left. And these cars that he left, there was, how many were there, Mark? There was 8.
We had no information on any of them.
No, nothing, 0. Yeah. And, but there was other vehicles from customers that would pull in our driveway and say, hey, my car was here, a month ago. Where is it at now? And he would sell it. He sold the car. That was somebody else's vehicle. He would sell the car. And so Mark and I, we busted our ass. Mark was driving up every Monday, coming up to from South Georgia.
From Tifton, you would drive every week?
Drive from Adel, yeah. We sold our house down in Adel, and I was driving back and forth. But I guess at the time we were back in Tifton, pretty much living with my wife's mom. So
That's
until we could
wild.
make the move up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Mark did this for about 2 months. He would stay with me Monday through Friday, me and my wife. And occasionally we would, go and party with the neighbors, and Mark would come back half lit, and just, it was a good time
It was
at the time. And we would, we busted our ass. And then I remember, so we finally got our doors open, got Junior out of the way, and we still had we had 8 of his cars there at the time, but we said, you know what? We don't care. They're hidden, they're in the back. We need to start bringing in some money. So he opened up our doors. I don't think we even had a sign hanging at the time. Or we had one. It was SRP now open on it was like a 4x8 banner hanging in between some T-posts out front in the lawn. And an old man pulled in our first day in a truck, and his heater hose blew up on him. And so didn't even work on an actual ATV as our first one in the shop. It was actually a truck for helping an old man. And he paid us $40 to do it. And, he had probably an hour and a half, 2 hours in it, just running and everything in between it. So we just said, you know what, man, just send us the business. And I haven't seen him since. I don't know if he's around or not, but
He must have been right.
I guess so. I mean, it was a Chevy, so.
That's funny, man.
Either way, I mean, we started this with a dream, and then had to come in on just terrible conditions, and made it happen. And then now every day we make it happen.
Yeah, man. There's a lot of parallels. I'm just kind of grinning because I have no risk in my side of things, on the hunt lift side of things. Luke gets to bear the brunt, the weight on his shoulders. He gets to be responsible for the marks of the hunt lift eat world. And it's funny, man. He'll send me, hey, dude, you should move out here and buy this ranch, or you should buy this house, and send me some, dozens of Zillow locations. And, because it's better when everybody's under the same roof. It doesn't make sense coming from Tifton to Dahlonega or Georgia to Colorado. You know what I mean? And those are sacrifices that y'all make early on. And something you said early on when you were explaining this, Mark, you said Jason was the one with the crazy schemes. And I think that's important. And I think that's an attribute that people who start their own businesses have to have. They have to be the dreamer with the crazy schemes, because that's the only way. Luke has this theory about early frontiersmen being the ones who go out and explore. They're the ones with the crazy schemes who leave the fire, right? I guess Luke can explain it better than I can, but
yeah, it's actually interesting. So like, there's I was studying a condition called hypomania. So it's like not manic depressive bipolar. It's a step below that, but it's like, and that's racing thoughts, big visions, all this kind of shit. Sometimes it can be delusions of grandeur. But when you look at the history of the United States, Andrew Carnegie was one, Alexander Hamilton, a lot of the founding fathers had this condition. And in America has a higher concentration than anywhere in Europe, which is interesting because in the theory overall, it's not my theory, but is that those are the people who were the immigrants, right? They're the ones that were seeing the bigger picture, the bigger dream, and came over. And that's, entrepreneurship's kind of tied in with our culture. We're way more aggressive with it than, Europeans and Asians have the lowest rates of entrepreneurship. It's kind of interesting when you look at those demographics, but yeah, I mean, I think, that vision is important. It can also, derail you, and you can, be out there chasing whiffs of smoke, and that can be a problem. But having a vision, having, somebody, and, you guys sound like you kind of got that good balance where, you've got the visionary, you've got the integrator, then you come together and you work together, and then, they have that balance, because that's key. You got to surround yourself with the right people. If you got everybody who's a visionary, then you just are out there chasing ghosts and trying to build something without actually building the foundation. But I love it, man. That story, I think it resonates with a lot of people. And I do a mindset call every month with our team members. And, a lot of the feedback I get is these folks that are sitting in corporate jobs. They hate their job. They hate, whatever, their circumstances are around their income, but they're married to that safety and the steady paycheck. And I feel that, right? I've worked for the federal government for the past 11 years. And so it's been a little different for me because I had the security of my paycheck as I built the company. Now I'm jumping out and I'm getting out of the Army full time, to jump into this full time. So while I started the company the same time you guys started yours, now it's the first time where this is my sole ability, my sole way of putting food on the table for my kids. And it's a big leap, and it's scary for a lot of folks. And, I wouldn't tell people to dive into it, willy nilly, because it's rough. And, when you're sitting there and you got 10 grand in the account and you got a $50,000 invoice that pops and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to pay this. And somehow you figure out a way though. And, kind of how you guys were backed into a corner where it's like, all right, I got 5 days to figure this out. I got this safety net sitting here. What am I going to do? Being backed into that corner, burning the ships and just moving forward where you have no other option. I think it gives you a lot of, it's that kind of fail or succeed or die type thing where like, you don't have a choice. Yep. All you can do is go forward, and all you can do is continue. And somehow, we always figure it out. It might be a shell game of moving some loans around or paying somebody here, but you can always get creative and figure it out when your back's against the wall. And I think that too often we don't put ourselves in those positions, those hard positions where we don't have a choice, where we have to go forward. If we always have a safety net, it's too easy to fall back into that. So I think you shouldn't always burn the ships, because then you can get yourself stranded. But I think that definitely if you have a dream, get the knowledge, get the requisite skills, and then go chase it. And you can read 100 books, but nothing will teach you like jumping in feet first and getting your hands dirty.
Yeah, I completely agree. Diesel Dave on those heavy duty checklists said it best. He said you got to be dumb enough to do it when you create a business. That's the first step. You have to be dumb enough to do it. And that really resonated with me, and it was scary, but I had no other choice. I didn't want to be miserable, and that's exactly what I was. And so I started this business, and it got real lonely doing this by yourself. And so that's probably the main reason why I wanted to bring Mark on. Not only did I want Mark to come on because he's my bro and I trust him, but I wanted him to come on because there was so much potential, and there's still so much potential of what it is and what it's becoming. And so, to look back on it where I was to where I am now, man, it's drastically different. And the person that I am now is just drastically different. And so I'm just happy to be where I'm at, to be honest.
Like you said yesterday when you were on the phone, man, you were like, we should call this episode Started from the Bottom. Now we're kind of like on the way getting there.
Yeah. Started from the bottom, and now we're kind of sort of there,
It's true though. And that's important.
That's so true. Right? Yeah.
It's important. It's and Mark, maybe you're this guy for Jason, but sometimes Luke will have a bad day and give me a call, or I'm having a bad day. I was stressed out last night and Luke talked me off the ledge. And you got to remember, like, hey, dude, we used to be on a Facebook group and you used to be sewing patches on hats. And like, now look at us, right? Even though it's still not where the visionary parts of us want it to be. But like, think about all the growth, right? Like, think about the gross, rundown, rotten floor building you started with, and now you got this awesome shop that you guys have totally remodeled, and it's clean and bright and friendly. And like, when we came and chatted with you guys, we sat up at your desk in the office for an hour and a half, just like hanging out like we were old buddies. And it has a familiar kind of feel to it, not like a traditional kind of shop or mechanic shop, man. It feels good, and that's important. Yeah, I think that's really important.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's what we want. Yeah, we want everybody to feel welcomed and be a part of what we have going on, for sure.
And that's part of the image. And that's part of the image that we're aiming for as well. Like I said, with the machines that we have, we want to make sure they're clean, but at the same time, we want to make sure that the image that we have portrays that. And I think, and actually, I know Hunt Lift Eat has the similar image of what we're aiming for. It's professional, it's fun, it's attractive, and everybody wants to be a part of it. And that's what Southern Rut Power Sports is, we might be a company that repairs and sells ATVs. But not only that, we want to have a following, and we want to have this group of people that supports us. So that way, whenever we go out and we do these events, we want these guys to come out and be with us. So, and a lot of ours is, and a lot of our guys are hunters. I mean, we have a ton of guys that come out and they fish and whatnot, but they use these machines to go hunting with. And so they depend on us to get it done. And so oftentimes we get stressed out and we forget about this image, because then it becomes a day-to-day drain. And we're like, man, we got another machine to fix. Man, we got something else to do. But then on top of that, we take a step back and then we look at it and we say, well, man, we've come this far, and look at the image. Look at the people that we've gotten with us. Look at who all we've met. And it's difficult to see where you're at instead of where you come from, where you came from.
Yeah, that perspective is really important. I find myself, getting frustrated, because we're not where we want to be, or, because I've got this very clear vision in my head of what this, should look like and will look like. And you want to get there, right? You want to get to the destination. But then sometimes it's like taking that step back, like what, Carter was saying, is like, a year ago, we didn't have any of what we have now. Like, we've completely, in 12 months have completely overhauled every aspect of this company. And it's kind of wild when you think about it, in the growth and the trajectory that we're on. It's like, we just, sometimes I got to tell myself, like, just enjoy the process. Like, my personal growth, I think I've come so far, as, even in my personal relationships, my ability to, cause like coming from my military background, I've had to learn a whole different style of leadership to like interact with, civilians that don't have the same background, right? Like, I have to have a level of empathy that I didn't necessarily have to have. So I've become a better man, a better husband, a better father. In this growth journey that you're on is when you, I think I think business can bring out the worst or the best in you, depending on who you are as a person and what your true motivations are, and your definition, your core values. I think that's really important to define early on in your business life, is what those are, because you see it, like the guys you were working for, like that guy that fucked you on the front end and that motivated you to get here. Honestly, though, the perspective you can have, like, fuck that guy, or you can look at it like, thank God for that guy. That was the nudge you needed to push you forward. Like, you owe him everything. In a weird, twisted sort of way. Like, if you had a boss that was like just okay enough that you didn't hate him, and he paid you maybe, instead of half, he paid you 80%, you'd have been like, okay, like, I guess I can just continue, like, but it was just bad enough that it like pushed you over the edge. And I feel the same way about one of my last bosses that I had. It's like, I'm grateful that was my last experience, because that pushed me out of the Army. If I'd had a decent time, I might have wanted to stay in. So that perspective, just in everything you're looking at, I think life in general, but especially in business, is really, really important, because it is so easy to get tunnel vision on the day-to-day and the grind. And every day feels like a knife fight. You feel like you're getting kicked in the balls. This is going wrong. That's going wrong, but you realize, like, you're building to something bigger. And if this is the price I have to pay to live the life I want to live on my own terms, it's a price worth paying every time.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great way to look at it. And you have to constantly remind yourself of that. Or like Jason said, yeah, you can definitely get drowned down in it and not see the bigger picture. So no, that's definitely something we've had to do along the way several different times. And every time we do it, you always feel a whole lot better about it, and better about where we're at and where we're going. And it definitely gives a clarity to it.
What I really liked when we were chatting on the front end, when I first met you guys, Jason, we were really talking about it, was like how you guys, like, your vision isn't, just being a shop. You want to build that brand and become, like, even though you're doing your business specifically in this location, like, you can get that reach out there and build the brand around everything you're doing. And I think that's cool. I mean, I can even just tell, like, from your hat, there's been an evolution there, right? Like, you went from the older school patches. Now you got a kind of a revamped design, some embroidery. So kind of what does that look like, really, since the last time we talked, where, what are you guys trying to do to build the brand beyond just the brick and mortar of working on, the machines and selling a couple four-wheelers and side-by-sides?
Well, one of the things that we're doing differently now is, and we have a ton of ideas. more than we can handle. And
Yeah.
then
I
it
understand
comes down
that.
to we have so many ideas, and I could name them off, and it's all things that we have experience in, and we know what's there. But the most recent thing that we're really reaching out to is for our commercial customers. So the guys that make a living using their machines, um, construction companies, wineries, farmers, whoever uses that machine to make a dollar with, or who uses that machine, if they don't use it, they're losing a dollar. And so what we're doing is we're changing up our setup, and we're allowing these commercial guys to come in, and we'll say, hey, we'll get you in first, we'll get you taken care of, and and allow them to get that machine back a lot faster. And so I've been acting as a sales rep for the company, not very much, but I'm kind of going back to my roots. And what it's allowing me to do is to go out to these guys, and Mark's been out with me one day, and just to kind of get out there and go meet these guys. And every single one that I meet, they're like, "Man, I got to wait at the dealership. It takes them 3 to 5 months to get my machine done." And that's where it sets us apart differently. And we're also a little bit cheaper too. We don't have the dealership fees and this, that, and the other. But that's kind of the first step that we're taking. One of the next step that we're taking that we want to do is we want to get more involved with other companies, kind of like this with Hunt Lift Eat. We want to continue getting involved with the community. I do Rotary on Thursdays most of the time. If my son now gets enough sleep and I make it through the morning, so I go to Rotary meetings on Tuesdays, and we're also, to continue our brand. Mark and I are, like I was talking with Carter about, we're going through this Model Man program to where we really focus on ourselves, and how we could be men of Christ, and how we could be better husbands, leaders, and just generally good people that people want to look up to. And so, we're moving different directions. We want to get into rentals here eventually. We want to get into powder coating and fabrication. Gosh, there are so many different avenues that we could get into, which is very difficult. But, here soon as well, we're looking to either expand the area that we have or move to a different location. And then what that allows to do will allow us to actually be able to expand our retail area, so that we have more merchandise, so that way we can hold some events at our location, and be able to really get out there. So we're starting to hire some guys now, so that way we can get the mechanic side handled. And then Mark and I are going to take a step back, quit working for the business, start working on the business, in which we've been doing that now,
Yeah.
and then really get more involved with it. And Mark, I'll let you go ahead. If you want to talk a little bit more about Model Man as well and how it's helping us out with our brand, that would be great too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you definitely covered a lot of it, but glad you brought up Model Man. Yeah, just personal growth, just becoming a better man all around. And I want to go to just one of our guys that we currently have with us, and he's been with us for a little while. He's super young and doesn't really have a father figure in his life. And, he's only 17 and just trying to get through high school. And dude is an awesome mechanic. And, you can tell he's grew up around it. He can pull an engine out of any vehicle or anything, and just make it run. He just has that natural ability with the mechanic side of things, and he just has a lot of things going on in his home life. What's that? I thought you was asking something, but no, I mean he was getting to where he wasn't really wanting to show up to work, and Jason and I were both ready to pretty much give him the boot and tell him to get gone, but I think we both kind of felt in our hearts, and we were going like Jason said, we're going through this Model Man program. We was like, well, he's never had that example in his life, and we sat him down and kind of had him write out some things that was going on, and he definitely opened up to us, and he's been doing 110% better since that conversation. So, but that's just testament to us investing in the guys we already have. And I mean, we've told them from the beginning, we're going to let you grow with us with this company. The bigger we get, um, we'll definitely take care of you guys. So, um,
That's huge.
but yeah,
That's huge, man. And that's worth, everything, right? Even if whatever, if we didn't sell another t-shirt, you know what I mean? Like that's worth every bit of positivity pouring into other people who have come along and believe in what you're doing, right? That guy, that kid trusts you, and is there and is there working for you. And, you know, talking about model man, like having integrity in business and integrity in
mm,
your personal life and the discipline. And then, how many guys are just going through the motions and not taking time to, learn and grow and have that personal development and be intentional about it, right? It's not easy, especially with a newborn and a 2-year-old. And Luke has 2 kids. I have 2 kids, and taking the time to do that for yourself. Luke said today, actually, when we were talking, I got to put on my oxygen mask first before I can, help anybody else. And as a
mm,
father, as a business owner, as mentors for that kid, um, you know, uh, fostering that personal growth is
mm,
so important because it pours it overpours into every aspect of what you guys are doing over there.
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know if
And
you.
Sorry, you guys go.
I was
I don't
just going
know.
to say, I would recommend anybody, any man or really anybody, go and read this book. It's called Model Man: From Integrity to Legacy. It's by Larry Stockstill. You can get it on Amazon or pretty much anywhere you can get a book. But um, yeah, we did it through our church, the Torch we go to here locally in Dahlonega, um, and that's been another huge part of our life since we moved up here to North Georgia, and I know it has been part of Jason's as well.
Yeah, I think it's a really understated part of business. And I like that you said it, Jason, was that you're working on yourselves. I'm reading a book right now called Your Next 5 Moves, Master the Art of Business Strategy by Patrick Bet David. He's big Instagram, kind of business guy. And his first, move is know yourself. And that really resonated with me because, I didn't even realize I was doing that. But and when I talk to guys about business, it's like I don't think people really understand how much time I spend trying to because I don't have a background in any of this shit. I was a history major and I barely graduated college, and I've been a
Mm,
dumb infantryman for the last 11 years, right? So I've got to learn all this as I go, and I just try to learn from people that are ahead of me by some guys that are just ahead of me and some guys that are exactly where I want to be, and in 10, 15, 20 years. And so when you take these lessons, it takes a lot of time. I probably spend 10 to 15 hours a week, just on that. And if I don't
mm,
have time to read, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm listening to books on tape. I'm trying to do this stuff. I drive, I travel a lot for the business. So, I throw AirPods in on the plane, try to crush, an audiobook, or I'm reading on the plane, or I'm reading in the truck, or listening to an audiobook in the truck, but just trying to learn and learn about yourself. Like, what's your personality type? Like, is there anything like that book that I read, The Hypomanic's Edge? Like, that was really insightful for me because I think it was something like 3 of the traits a psychologist will diagnose somebody. I had every single one of them, and I was like, oh, okay. So now I actually know why I am the way I am because I haven't really fit in. Like I wasn't good in college. I have a mixed results in the army. Like with all that structure, it's just not how my brain works.
mm,
But learning that about myself, and then I can learn where are the pitfalls that people that have my personality type. Where do they hit their hangups, right? Overspending, that's one of them, right? I run into that with the business because I'm so aggressive. And so
mhm,
learning about yourself and how you function, how you think, where your deficiencies are, then you can either address and try to work on your weaknesses, or you bring in people that complement it. And so I'm bringing in a guy that's going to be my no man, right? He's going to sit in my ear, he's going to look at the books, kind of manage our finances. And when I have a harebrained idea and I'm like, oh, we got the money, we can do it, he's going to be like, no, we can't. Right. And so that kind of stuff, I think to get to that next level of business, you have to do. So many folks focus on learning the business tactics and the business skills and not the actual, personal stuff and learning how to be a better man or woman, but, specifically from our perspective, a man. And I mentioned earlier, like defining your core values and like sticking to that. Because if you don't have those hard left and right limits of, what you're willing to do, like it's easy to have that ethical drift to where you're making concessions, and it's easy to then all of a sudden you look and you're somewhere where you never wanted to be. And that's probably that guy that you were working for, right? He probably started out trying to do shit the right way, but he had
Yeah.
some sort of positive feedback loop for the wrong shit. And because he didn't have any hard, defined core values, he started drifting. I don't think most people set out to be bad people. I think they just never had those hard lines that they knew that this was their left and right limits, and set those for themselves, and then learned about where the risk was for their personality to be able to go in the wrong direction. Because there's a yin and a yang to all of us, right? There's good and evil in everybody. Like, we all have that within us, whether we want to admit it or not, to do the wrong thing. And so we have to really look at that, and whether, it's through scripture and, through your relationship with God, or whether it's just, really looking at that from a different belief, you gotta pour into that. I think it's one of the most important things. And I see a difference in myself and how I'm able to run, manage, and then grow the business.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I like it, Luke. You are, or I'm just like you. I'm the one, I'll see some money in the account and I'm like, hey, we got this. And Mark's like, hold up, dude.
Yeah, I'm
We
the
need
no
to
man.
take it easy. And I come up
Yeah.
with this analogy, and I told Mark, I said, I'm the one that jumps out of an airplane and I'll find the parachute on the way down. You're the one that packs 4 of them and then make sure I have it on before I jump.
You need that, right? And guys
Yeah.
like us need that. We need, because it's, I've literally jumped out of, planes, and I didn't feel a lick. I have an irrational not fear of heights. Like my risk meter, of course I'm irrationally afraid of needles, but like my risk meter for most things isn't there. I have a super high risk tolerance. But by identifying that and knowing it, I take deliberate steps but it's like, okay, I know I cannot do this impulsively. So let me sit down here. Let me write down where I see the risk, where I see the problems, what's going to happen 3, 4, 5 moves ahead if I make this decision. Because if I see, if we're sitting on the account and I'm like, we got 15, 20 grand sitting here, it's like, let me put it to work right now. What can we do, instead of sitting there and be like, maybe we need build some cash reserves, so I don't sit there with 10 grand in the account with that 50 grand invoice hits that I wasn't expecting. So some of those lessons learned, you probably have to happen the wrong way, but having both personality types, because without you just jumping forward, like Mark's probably still sitting in the insurance job, hating his life, but you're like, fuck it, I'm burning the ships, I'm ready to go. And that pulled Mark along. And so but then he's pulling you back when you're trying to, run off the rails and do some crazy shit. So it's the perfect balance.
Yeah.
Very much. Very
It
much.
was definitely a wild ride in both areas to begin with, but we're definitely trying to find that balance point now, and it's definitely just a day-to-day process on figuring out the balance and everything.
Yeah.
But,
And, everybody says don't go into business with your friends. And Mark and I have been doing this for what now? A year and a half?
yeah,
Well,
a
actually,
year and a half.
longer than that. Probably closing in on 2 years, and I don't think we've butt heads one time. It's, hey, this is how it needs to be. What do you think? And he'll tell me how it is. And if I don't like it, I'll say, all right, well, what do we do then? Give me your point of view. And, there's a couple times we'll get aggravated with each other and say, damn it, Mark, or damn it, Jason, what the fuck are you doing? And we pull it back and say, hey, this is how we need to fix it. And we've been able to do it every single time. And there have been times where we have these large purchases or we have these major deals that we need to do. And we're like, how in the hell do we do this? Or how do we make payroll this week? We only brought in $50 and we have, our guys to pay for. And every single time we figured it out every single time.
You found that parachute on the way down.
Oh, yeah. And I swear to you, that is my life slogan is I'll figure it out. Just don't worry about it. I'll figure it out. And my wife's probably over there like, yeah, he's an idiot, but yeah.
That's right.
It's huge, dude. It's a huge attribute to have. And we talk about this all the time. A lot of people just don't have any inkling to figure it out when faced with a problem or a scenario or where you have to critically think at all. people are happy to just settle, right? And that's why Southern Rut is going to be where you want it to be in 5 years, in 10 years. That's why you guys are going to make it, right? Because you refuse to settle. You're going to figure it out, right? And same thing with Luke. People don't have that anymore. Like, or I don't know anymore. I don't know. I'm talking like I'm 100 years old, right? But like, there's none of that, right? People have no desire to figure it out. They're just happy to settle. I work with so many people who just settle, right? And you're just going to do this forever. I'd be so bored if I wasn't doing podcasts and talking to cool people and like what a waste, you know?
I was just joking with Carter. It's been a rough couple of weeks, and I was like, man, because I got buddies that have gotten out of the army, right, and they get an MBA, and they go and they're working some remote job, making $250,000 a year, and I'm like, God, that sounds pretty good from where I'm sitting right now. You know what I mean? Like working 110-hour weeks to make damn near no money, to try to be able to build something with a long-term vision. It's like, this sucks. But then I think about it with some perspective. It's like, after doing this, I would be such a shitty employee, like so bad, right? Like I would rather be poor for the rest of my life, figuring it the fuck out, chasing the dream, trying to work and build, and like failing forward and not being afraid to fail. And like, Justin, who's my kind of my right hand, he's kind of been there, done that. He was a CEO and a founder of a company in a similar space, and he helps me a lot and gives me a lot of sage wisdom. But he just talks about, we just need to fail fast so we can learn the lessons and go. And so I've tried to deliberately do that. I've put a lot of pressure on us, which I'm feeling the brunt of, and all of us are right now. But it's because we want to fail fast and we want to fail forward, because we don't know what we don't know, and we just got to learn these lessons as quick as possible. And that's like one of the things that I think why we've grown so quickly is because we're not afraid to fail. We're not afraid to pivot. Like today, I just made a decision that we're going to pivot on a lot of stuff, and we're going to scale a lot of things back, so we can focus on the foundation the right way and not get too wide. And that's, you're talking about wanting to get into a bunch of stuff. That's the one piece of advice that I give people, and I found myself not taking it, is like, keep a narrow focus, do what you do well until you start building up to where you have, the cash flow coming in to be able to then move into that space, or, have it. Because the problem that happens with guys like us, especially, is you start to train your brain this way, and then you start to see opportunity everywhere, and you start to run numbers. You're like, man, we can make a lot of money doing this. We can make a lot of money doing this. When is it just more valuable to pour all that energy into becoming the very, very best at this one thing before we then try to go out and do something else. And so that's what, what we're doing right now is like, okay, we're going to dial some stuff back. We're going to get better at what we do well, to where we're just better than everybody. Then we can start expanding back into the other things we're trying to do. So, but yeah, it's fun.
It's like that old saying, like, it's better to be an inch wide and a mile deep than a mile wide and an inch deep.
Yep. And it's so easy to do it because you do really start to see all this opportunity. You're like, man, we can make fast cash. I heard a really good quote on a podcast the other day that, like, I'm going to put, when we have our building, I'm going to put this on the fucking wall, probably in multiple locations. It's like, don't burn the empire chasing a pot of gold. And that really resonated with me. Like, it's easy to make fast money, but when you have a long-term vision for what you're trying to build, like, don't burn that or jeopardize that trying to chase a quick, bag of gold. And it's so easy to chase that fast cash, but like, what's that going to do long-term to your brand, to your reputation, to like how you feel about yourself, right? And even if you're not trying to like purposely go around, but like even providing a subpar service, that was something we're finding ourselves, like, we're overextending on some of our promises. Not quite to the point now where I don't think we can deliver, but like, we're right on that cusp. And I was like, we got to stop. We can't do anything else. We can't bring anything else on, because we're not going to deliver the value. Because I'm a big, like, everybody should get at least a minimum of 10x on whatever they're giving us, like the experience, if they're buying our products, if they're a part of a team, if they're coming in as a brand partner or a sponsor. We want everybody to feel like they're getting more out of what they're getting. So, we can make money, but then they go away feeling like they got a steal of a deal. And so if we can't deliver on that, then that's our core focus as a brand. Then we have got to stop, slow down, not rush chasing that pot of gold, which long term is going to burn us. So I love that quote, and it came to me at the right time. It's funny that tends to happen when you're listening. The right things get said to you.
Yeah, definitely.
I completely agree. I like that, and that's what our business was forced to kind of do too, because we were trying to go into these other avenues, and you know, Mark and I wanted to get into these, you know, rentals and things of that nature. And we just, you know, we do the math. We're like, oh my God, you know, we could be rich next year. And then we're like, but we're not good at what we're doing now. We suck. Like, you know,
Same.
we, yeah. Like, we suck at what we do. How do we make this better? And then finally, and Mark, you may, I know you agree with me, but finally, it's like the past month or two, it's just seemed to like be somewhat smoother. And I think part of that was some employee changes and stuff that were made, and
Mm.
and I think some just operational sides. And Mark and I honestly stepping back just a little bit, and it just seemed to get smoother. You know, we still struggle here and there, but at least on my end, I feel a little bit better about how the company's running and where it's going. Still stresses the hell out of me,
Yeah.
but you
Uh,
know, I
yeah, we
think it
we
is.
definitely had to focus on one area just to get it right before we bounced around
Yeah.
and dabble in everything else.
This
Yeah,
is
y'all,
important.
y'all being able to take a step back and look at the 10,000 foot view instead of, if you're in there, twisting wrenches, then who's driving the boat, and sometimes you got to do that, right? Sometimes you got to get in there and sew the patches on the hat, or turn the wrenches, right? But being able to take that step back and have the vision is super important. And we're thrilled to see where you guys grow, and we're thrilled about this relationship. You guys are a massive sponsor for our clay shoot coming up on March 23rd, and we're stoked that y'all have decided to partner with us and support us in that endeavor. And we are beyond thankful for that opportunity. Y'all believing in us, and looking forward to growing that relationship. And you got a Kawasaki mule for me around back of your building that I sure want to come take a look at this weekend. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that too, man.
Yeah. Let me know. I'll have to call the guy, but yeah, let me know.
Mm.
And I'm also, again, I'm extremely appreciative of you guys as well,
Yeah.
allowing us to join this journey with you, and allowing us to be on this podcast. Man, this is something I've always dreamed of doing, and I never thought that it would come as soon as it has. I thought maybe whenever I had 3 or 4 dealerships down the road, somebody would want me to be on their podcast. I never thought that, poor Joe Blow like me could get on here and go and talk to some badasses and make it happen.
You talk
It's
to one every day,
Hey, that's right.
buddy.
It's crazy, dude. They'll let anybody start one.
Yeah.
Yep.
I, I feel the same way. I'd never thought I'd been on a podcast, especially, but yeah, it's really awesome. So
I never thought I'd have a podcast, for whatever that's worth, and I never thought anybody would care to listen to me get on a microphone and bullshit for a couple hours at a time.
mm-hmm.
It's funny how, and going back to, starting your own thing, this is something that I always use for some perspective too. Like in the world of podcasts, if you make it past episode 21, you're in the top 90% of podcasts ever, because nobody follows through, and we're on episode, I don't even know what now,
Yeah.
couple hundred combined with our 2 segments. And it's like the bar for like being successful has never been lower. Like, you don't have to play necessarily, especially in the game of business. It's not about necessarily swinging for the fence. This is something I tell myself too. Like, the overall goal of the business isn't to swing for the fences and hit the home run. It's to just keep playing the game. If you can keep showing up and keep building, and slow incremental growth is better in a lot of ways than just knocking it out of the park. It's the same thing with the podcast, right? We don't have to sit here. I used to like look at the numbers and be like, why aren't we growing? And like, now I don't even look at it. Like, Cole, our producer, will try to tell me. I'm like, I don't care. As long as there's not like a sharp drop, like, I don't care if it's doing this or if it's slowly going up. Like, that's all we need, like slow and steady. And when you get to the point of being good enough and having the skill sets, that's when you're going to see it. that's when you set yourself apart because you're so good, or if you just lasted so long. You just have to outlast everybody because all these other businesses close. I mean, you know the statistics on small businesses, and it's because they don't play to just stay in business. And I'm not saying that like playing it safe. You still got to have big moves and move forward and grow, because if you're not growing, you're
Hmm.
dying in business. But it's
Yeah.
about just not chasing that home run. And I actually just recently found myself in that position where I was chasing the home run. And Carter and I talked this morning about it, where I was like, we got to stop, slow down, and just look at what we're doing and just continue to build this, because our growth trajectory, I should be ecstatic on it. Like, it's pretty silly, but I'm sitting here like, we got to hit it big. We got to hit it big. We got to hit it big. But that
Never
perspective is,
satisfied.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I know the goalpost is always going to be moving, right? And you set these goals in your head, right? And like, I've really had to, and this is going back to yourself. It's like, I really study a lot of Stoic philosophy, and like, but looking at like how much of this is just ego and how much
Hmm.
of it's not real. Like like I was chasing retail really hard 2 years ago. And then I realized like, we're not in the position, like, and if we got there, it wouldn't even be beneficial to us as a business, because all I want to do is be able to walk into a big store and see my fucking designs on the wall. And that is solely ego. And it's like the fuck you to everybody that told me I couldn't do this. And it's like, this isn't the right reasons to be doing this. Instead of like looking at it, it's like, okay, now we're in talks with a retailer. We're in a position to actually be able to fulfill this. And now we're in a position where that money is going to be course, altering for the entire company if it happens. But if it doesn't, it's okay. We'll just keep grinding, keep growing, keep doing it. And then one day we will be, because at a certain point you become so good that people can't ignore you anymore. And I always like, God, I'm an aggressive person. Like, I just want to go, go, go. Carter can attest. I'm like that when we're hunting. I'm like that when we're talking business. I'm like that when we're just drinking beer. Like, I'm an on or an off switch with everything. And so, but realizing that I've learned so many valuable lessons about myself. And I'm rambling a lot, but like, I'm just passionate about this because it's just changed who I am as a man, and it's made me better. And I love it. It sucks though, but I love it.
Yeah,
So sometimes.
you said that about having your name up on the wall and that big fuck you to everybody. That's what not the big screw you, but I want my name up on a supercross, supercross race, and everybody seeing that, and that's what I want. And maybe it's an ego thing. Maybe it's something that I'll never reach. But by God, I'm not satisfied. I'm never satisfied until I reach that goal.
Well, and then you won't
And
be either. That goalpost will just move again,
exactly, exactly. And
and
it's
that's okay.
that is one of the hardest things that I've had to learn, is to be satisfied of where I'm at currently and celebrate the small wins. And
Yep.
our business consultant, who he's a part of this model man group, and he's more of a friend than a business consultant, but he has multi-million-dollar CEOs that he trains, and he gave us this $1 million advice over breakfast one day, and he said, you have to celebrate the small wins. You have to, because if you don't, you get ingrained with this day-to-day bullshit and forget where you're going. And you have to make sure that you take a step back, take the day off, go ride your dirt bike, do whatever, and celebrate the small wins, because you'll forget it's all about the journey. It's not about the ending. And
Yeah.
so, and then at the end of breakfast, he wanted to pay for it, and I said, no, we got it. I'm sure your information's much more valuable than breakfast. And he said, yeah, you're looking at $1,400. I said, yeah, I'm sure.
Those little nuggets, though, I mean, and it's so simple. Like, most business coaching isn't some crazy tactic, and most business advice isn't some crazy, like, groundbreaking marketing strategy. It really is just knowing, like, having the perspective and then the mindset to be able to actually deal with it, because most people can't fucking do it. They either chicken little themselves into quitting or never starting, or they listen to all the outside noise. Like, I can't tell you the number of people that are like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Like, close people in my friends, family, to my face, behind my back. And it's fine. I don't hold any animosity, but it was a big motivator for mine for a long time. And I think early on, like, use whatever fuel you have. If it's your daddy issues, your mommy issues, if it's like the teacher that told you you're never going to be nothing, use whatever fuels you. But what you're going to find eventually is that starts to fizzle out, because you just don't even care anymore, because it's like, like some of that's not like they're not even worth, and I don't mean this in like a negative way, like they're nothing because they're people, but it's like they're not that's not even worth considering anymore because we're growing, we're doing so much positive things, or we're attempting to do that like I don't even have time to worry about. And then the motivation just shifts into something a lot more positive, at least from my end. Some guys might carry that fuel forever, but I think a lot of entrepreneurs start off with that kind of negative fuel. And there's a lot of noise out there in the space that's like, you know, you don't want that, don't use that. But I disagree. I think you should use whatever moves you forward, and then just naturally let it shift over time as your perspective changes.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think the biggest thing for me before I made this jump, before I called Jason up and told him, I was coming up and we were going to do this thing. I told myself like, what if I never do it? I'd rather do it, fail, um, have to go back to the 9 to 5 job as an employer or whatever. I'd rather try, fail than not try. And, you know, it's the what if, like wonder what if, what would have happened if I would have just jumped and did it.
Knowing
So,
what the actual true worst case scenario, I would frame this with my guys who are getting out of the army that are like all stressing out. I'm like, what's the down, like what's the actual risk? And this is going back to identifying risk. And like I'm
mm,
like, is it living under a bridge? And they're like, well, yeah. And I'm like, you've been in the army for 8 years, you've got these skill sets, you're making this much money now. Do you think you really can't get any job? Well, no. And I'm like, so the risk isn't actually the bridge, right? It's not making as much as you want to. How much do you actually need to live off of? And then it's like,
yeah,
okay, let's define this. Like, my standard what's your actual cost of living, right? Let's whittle that down. Can you sell your nice house that you've been living off on the government's, housing allowance? Okay, boom, yeah, you can downsize, you can rent, you can do. Okay, you might have to move off the front range of fucking Colorado where it's like California, But like, and my wife and I had this long conversation. Like, if everything went to shit, everything, I can go live with my fucking dad on a beautiful farm in southwestern Virginia and run cattle, and he'll put me up until I can get my, if we go bankrupt and everything goes horribly wrong and my credit's shot and all this, like that's my baseline. I'm lucky enough to have a supportive family, so some people's might be lower. But I was like, if our worst case is I got to go run cattle with my old man on the farm that's been in my family for a long time, like it's not a bad downside. But like people don't think of it like they catastrophize going all the way down to like I'm going to live under a bridge or I'm going to die. It's like, well, that's not actually even within the realm of possible outcomes. So like let's actually identify what that is, and when we lay it out there, it's like, oh, my worst case isn't that bad. I got to go live in my parents' basement for a minute. And isn't that embarrassing as hell? Sure. But it's not a catastrophe. Okay, now let me go and make those decisions without having the fear of this like great looming dread of some scenario that will never actually possibly happen.
yeah,
Unless you're, some people probably, might have something where they don't really, truly have nothing to fall back on. But you got to identify that. And exactly like, if it didn't work out for you, you'd go right back to that job, and you'd probably have some better skill sets that would make you a better employee anyways, because what a boss wants, what an employer wants. Like I would know how to do a lot of things. I would be bad at it because I would hate it, but I would know what to do to be able to facilitate and probably have higher earning potential, because I realize how, payouts to employees work. And it's like, how do I make the business more money versus doing my specific job? I would go after a commission-based job versus a salary-based job because I want that
mm,
upside now. Like you learn those skill sets that you wouldn't have had otherwise. So like worst case, you're out, a few $1,000s and you come out with a shitload of skills. It's not as
yeah.
scary as everybody thinks it is.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah, I don't know how many times we've said, "What's the worst case?" We just got to go back and get another job.
Yeah,
It's pretty.
especially I mean, yeah, with our background, Mark's got a really good degree. I have, an extensive resume in sales, and I'm not afraid of it. But my problem is what I'm afraid of is to go back to another boss. Um,
Mm,
it's like I've got daddy issues. I don't want anybody telling me what to do. You
Yeah.
know,
I get that.
so I wouldn't know
No,
what to do.
well, you just
yeah,
start another business. How many
Yeah,
entrepreneurs that are successful now went bankrupt once, twice, 3 times? Like there's some crazy statistic on how like like Bezos is like one of the only, it's Bezos and Zuckerberg who are like the only guys that actually like started with their core business, and that's what they became ultra successful with. Most of these
Mm.
guys were serial entrepreneurs before they found the one that hit. And like I've said it all the time, like if this didn't work, or if somebody wanted to offer me an insane amount of money, and I sold it, like I would be so much faster on the next one. Like I know so much more of all the pitfalls that I've already made and now I don't know how to get past this point, but I could get to this point so much faster, and I could
Yeah.
probably surpass it because I have all that knowledge and all those lessons. And that's like, it's so valuable. Like your skills are the thing you should be investing in, not the
Mm.
S&P. The dude that I follow, Alex Hermosa, he talks about the SME 500 versus the S&P 500. Like invest when you're young into your skill sets, because your earning potential from your income is what matters more than, you know, putting $200 a month into an index fund that's going to compound over time. Like your skills will compound much faster. So I think that the skills shouldn't be like, you know, discounted at all, because you guys are going to come away, like, even if everything went to shit tomorrow for whatever reason, right? The Biden administration bans all small engines because of emissions or some shit, which
Wouldn't doubt
probably
it.
isn't
Really.
outside of the realm of possible outcomes. But you guys could pivot into something else immediately, right? And still do the same thing and do it even better than you did, because you won't have the baggage of the the poor decisions you made on the front end that we all make, and then I'm continuing to make. Right now, you can just bypass all that and move quicker. So
Mm.
I agree.
Yeah, man.
Mark and I joke all the time. So somebody comes in and offers us a chunk of money for the business, we might just let it go.
Yeah.
But that's our baby,
Let it
man.
go and start something else.
That's
Yeah,
right. That's
exactly,
right.
you know, I say it all the time. Like I'm not building this business for an exit, but I have a price that I would exit. You know what I mean?
That's
You're
Like,
right.
right.
Yeah.
yeah, like everything's for sale for the right amount of money. So, but yeah, dude, I've found since I got into business that I love the business even more than I love like the hunting and the fitness side. And like, it's funny, I started the business to chase my passions, but I've realized that the business is my true passion. So I love this kind of, this is kind of a pivot from our normal conversations, but I love this stuff. Carter was
Mm.
like, "You're going to really dig this one, man." I'm like, I don't know. I was like, "What are we going to talk about?" And yeah, so
Yeah.
it went
I'm not
quick.
gonna lie, I was a little worried about it too, because I was looking at all your podcasts and it was all about hunting and all these, you know, what your name is, you know, hunt, live, to eat, and I was like, well, I don't know exactly how we're gonna fit in here, but yes,
Well,
been awesome.
that's
you
perfect,
No,
man.
know,
Because Mark, like you
okay.
just said, man, how many people? Yeah, you took the jump, right? How many people listening haven't taken the jump? Want to take the jump? Have talked about making the jump? That's why I
Yeah.
think this is a perfect conversation to have, and we probably need to have it all the time.
Mm.
Do it, right? Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? You know, like y'all are a phenomenal example of that.
Yeah. Nothing else. Just be motivation,
That's right.
perspective for
no,
somebody else. Although I
I
probably
agree.
could get some advice. I went out and uh I sat all Thanksgiving weekend in the deer stand. I didn't see a single buck, so or a single deer really. So I probably could definitely get some advice for you guys.
Well, I had every intention of taking you boys out, and I didn't kill a deer this year. I didn't even
Oh wow.
whitetail it. And
Yeah.
kind of like Luke said, I don't love anything else more in the world, and I'm busier than I ever have been. But Luke will be up here in April, and I think it'd be fun to take you guys out on a turkey hunt. We'll go hunt Ed's property. The four
Oh
of us will
yeah.
go out there, and we'll go make it happen and shoot some turkeys, and then rip around on some Southern Rut 4x4s, man.
Yeah, on the pacifier
That's right.
and
If it's raining.
Listen to Ed's nonsense.
Yeah,
We'll go when
that's
he's not
it's
there.
really cool to be able to do this kind of stuff. And Luke, I think you and I really resonate with each other because, like you just said, that you enjoy the business side more of it now than the actual, the events of, what your business contains. And I don't even enjoy working on these machines anymore. I don't even enjoy working on my own. I just don't enjoy it anymore. But what gets me fired up, and I'm like a giddy schoolgirl, is when I get to go out and market my business and network and just talk to people and that's what makes me excited. And then whenever I land these big deals, it's like I told Mark, I'm like, if you let me out of this shop, I'll go and find us the business. And then I come back and I have, the college on board some other, customers that are relatively big. And I just, like I said, a giddy schoolgirl. I'm just happy as can be.
Yeah.
And that's what I
It's
enjoy.
like it's like
Love
hunting,
that.
man. You go out, you kill it, and you drag it back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, boys.
Awesome.
Well, I appreciate you guys jumping on. I appreciate your guys' support. For all you listeners, if you're up in North Georgia, 23 March, Dawsonville, Etowah Valley. Carter, this is Carter's baby, so if it sucks, blame him. But I'll be there as well. I'm flying out, and I'm there to support him because he's crushed it on putting this event together. It's a clay shoot. You can register on our website, go to events and challenges, and you can see the registration there and jump in. We got some cool prizes, cool raffle. I mean, Carter, you want to talk a little more about all that? Let's do a little shameless plug here before we wrap.
Yeah, we got a lot of awesome companies and individuals sponsoring us and making this happen. And we've got some phenomenal raffle prizes being donated. Jason and Mark, y'all are bringing out some side-by-sides, maybe some 4x4s that will be for sale. Catch Luke in a good mood.
Uh-oh.
He might snag a couple of them up, man.
I just got back from Texas running hogs with dogs, and the whole time I was like, "Fuck, I need a side by side."
Yeah, we've got some awesome other companies who have donated some phenomenal raffle prizes. We've got brand new Prime inline bow donated from Solo Hunter Tim Burnett. We've got Tacticam, who's come on as a sponsor. They've donated cameras, trail cameras, and those action cameras that go on your bow or your shotgun. Onyx has come on. They've donated all sorts of memberships year long, and the premium and the elite. I think we have 5 shotguns. We've got 2 pistols from Taurus. We've got coolers and tumblers and I don't know, everything from coffee to guns, man. We've got a little bit of everything. So it'll be a good time. So North Georgia folks, swing by March 23rd and definitely go check out our boys at Southern Rut.
Well, we'll definitely we'll add in with that raffle for sure. We'll make sure we add something in there.
Cool.
Hell yeah.
If it's a service, I'm going to win it.
Other than that, I really appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, man. This was a great talk. It got me rejuvenated with the business. I realized that I actually like it, and I'm not going to just burn it all down.
Yeah.
Jason, where can listeners find you guys on social media?
So go on Facebook at Southern Rut Power Sports. Same with Instagram. We're also on TikTok. We have a couple stupid videos that we've done. One of them, me underneath a four-wheeler with Mark filming it. So and that's under TikTok at Southern Rut. And then other than that, we have our website, www.southernrutpowersports.com. And then if you guys need to call us, come to Dahlonega, Georgia, 1640 South Chestatee Street, Dahlonega, Georgia, 30533.
The big city.
That's right.
Mark, you got any closing thoughts for us, Mark?
No, just definitely have enjoyed this. It's been a great discussion, and I'm with Luke. I'm a little rejuvenated, so yeah, we'll get back after it, and look forward to seeing you guys on the 23rd of March, and hopefully we'll get to win some raffles and bring home the gold in the clay shoot.
Hell yeah.
You got anything? Luke?
We'll try.
Yeah. That's a big try, but
We'll try.
Cool,
guys.
Appreciate you guys. And looking forward to seeing you guys. And listeners, as always, we appreciate the hell out of you guys. We'll talk to you next week.
See you guys.